Hello, welcome to Feasting on the Word for March the 12th, 2025. Once again, immersing ourselves in this ancient discipline to pick up the rhythms of our faith. And this discipline was started as a way to make approaching God's inspired word manageable. Because looking at the Bible in its entirety can really feel overwhelming. It's a huge book, and to know where to start, how much to read in any one sitting, and then to manage to even take anything from that is all very difficult. So Feasting on the Word, its ancient name was Lectio Divina, was a way to break it apart to really begin to appreciate all that it could say to our lives, all communicate into our lives. Well, how do we do that? Started in monasteries in taking a small piece of scripture and hearing it multiple times with only silence between the readings, again, to appreciate all that it had to say. So instead of just reading it once and then glancing past it, it was to hear it a number of times in a row to really begin to appreciate it. We update this by using 4 different translations: the New Revised Standard, the Message, the Contemporary English, and the New International Version, but maintain otherwise the practice as it historically has been. So we have a minute of silence following the first reading, a minute following the second, a longer period of 3 minutes following the third reading, and then we conclude with the fourth and final reading. The longer period of silence is intended as an opportunity for us to turn to God after having heard this passage of God's inspired word 3 times with our reflections on it. So how is it reaching us on this day? Is it confusing us? Is it inspiring us? Is it encouraging us? I like to have something to write with and something to write on nearby, so as it is read through those first 3 times, I can write down my impressions and then use those as the material for that conversation, that prayer with God during the longer period of silence. So without further delay, let's get into our discipline for this week. Our passage comes to us from the prophet Isaiah. This is the 25th chapter, and we are reading the first 5 verses of that chapter. We'll begin with the New Revised Standard. O Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you, I will praise your name, for you have done wonderful things, plans formed of old, faithful and sure. You have made the city a heap, the fortified city a ruin. The palace of foreigners is a city no more. It will never be rebuilt. Therefore, strong peoples will glorify you. Cities of ruthless nations will fear you. For you have been a refuge to the poor, a refuge to the needy in their distress, a shelter from the rainstorm and a shade from the heat. When the blast of the ruthless was like a winter rainstorm, the noise of foreigners like heat in a dry place, you subdued the heat with the shade of clouds. The song of the ruthless was stilled. Our second reading of Isaiah chapter 25 verses 1 through 5 from the Message. God, you are my God. I celebrate you. I praise you. You've done your share of miracle wonders, well thought out plans, solid and sure. Here you've reduced the city to rubble, the strong city to a pile of stones. The enemy big city is a non-city, never to be a city again. Superpowers will see it and honor you. Brutal oppressors bow in worshipful reverence. They'll see that you take care of the poor, that you take care of poor people in trouble. Provide a warm, dry place in bad weather. Provide a cool place when it's hot. Brutal oppressors are like a winter blizzard, and vicious foreigners like high noon in the desert. But you shelter from the storm and shade from the sun. Shut the mouths of the big-mouthed bullies. Our third reading of Isaiah 25, 1 through 5 from the Contemporary English Version. Lord, you, Lord, are my God. I will praise you for doing the wonderful things that you had planned and promised since ancient times. You've destroyed the fortress of our enemies, leaving their city in ruins. Nothing in that foreign city will ever be rebuilt. Now strong and cruel nations will fear and honor you. You have been a place of safety for the poor and needy in times of trouble. Brutal enemies pounded us like a heavy rain or the heat of the sun at noon, but you were our shelter. Those wild foreigners struck like scorching desert heat, but you are like a cloud, protecting us from the sun. You kept our enemies from singing songs of victory. I apologize. I got a little carried away. Took just a few seconds longer than 3 minutes. But here is our final reading from the New International Version, Isaiah 25. Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you and praise your name, for in perfect faithfulness you have done wonderful things, things planned long ago. You have made the city a heap of rubble, the fortified town a ruin, the foreigner's stronghold a city no more. It will never be rebuilt. Therefore, strong peoples will honor you. Cities of ruthless nations will revere you. You've been a refuge for the poor, a refuge for the needy in their distress, a shelter from the storm, and a shade from the heat. For the breath of the ruthless is like a storm driving against a wall, and like the heat of the desert. You silence the uproar of foreigners, as heat is reduced by the shadow of a cloud, so the song of the ruthless is stilled. This is the inspired word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.